So have you ever started a book and come up on something that really freaking annoyed you, and then you're like, yeah, instant DNF? Yeah, that's happened to me quite a bit. It's just like one little nitpicky thing, that just gets you in a book and you just can't finish it. It bothers you so much. No matter how popular the book is, no matter how much people love the book, you can't deal with it. Well, that's what I asked you guys, all of my followers. TikTok definitely is my biggest platform, so I asked all my TikTok followers, what were those kind of small book tropes or things in books that instantly makes you just want to quit the book and just never return? I'm going to be reading and reacting to them. Number 1, the MMC giving the FMC a corny nickname, like a little bird or something. The nicknames. So historically, my merman books, my favorite series by Emma Hamm, they all have nicknames in all the books, and a lot of my favorite books do have the nickname trope. They do. Monster romances does tend to have a lot of nicknames in them. I found that to be kind of a reoccurring theme. Some are worse than others. Even though monster romance is my favorite, I do kind of unironically like hockey romance too, and Regency. So of course I picked up this book, Puck and Prejudice. By far has one of the most horrific nicknames in it. This MMC calls this FMC Pocket Rocket. Pocket Rocket. That's the nickname. It's pretty bad. The book is cute and I liked it so much I bought a physical copy. We'll say maybe the exception to this is in the dark romance genre. There tends to be these like kind of like degrading or either like childlike nicknames. Now that is almost a different story. That might make me want to DNF. But like something that's just corny, I can probably look past it if like the rest of the book is good. And that's kind of what happened with this. It was just entertaining and fun and cute. And I was like, okay, I can get over this kind of corny nickname. Kind of depends on the nickname. Enemies to lovers, I know. It's rarely done right. And there's never a situation where I'd want a woman with her abuser. Okay. Oh gosh, here we go. I actually genuinely agree with this. Enemies to lovers is definitely not my favorite. Favorite season of Bridgerton was season 3, and my least favorite was season 2, which is crazy because there's like such a massive fan base for season 2. And it's not because I don't love Jonathan Bailey or I didn't still love it. Like I love every season of Bridgerton, okay, but enemies to lovers is like my least favorite trope. And that's what that trope for that season was. It was just such a slow burn to the point it annoyed me so bad. It is lots of times what happens in the books too. I get a little impatient and I would rather have, and see this is very unpopular, I'd rather have insta-love over like super slow burn enemies to lovers. The reason why I'm going to talk about my merman books so much because I'm just obsessed with them. Merman books, book 1 is enemies to lovers, but book 2 is not that way at all. And book 2 is my favorite. So I tend to lean against enemies to lovers. It's just kind of not my thing. I think that's just kind of a personal preference thing. I do get the appeal of like, there's a thin line between love and hate. I think those are cool things to explore. Like, I get it. Do I like to read that or like prefer reading that? Not really. Kind of agree. Especially like if it's enemies to the point of abusive, like this comment said. Absolutely not. No. I don't. Anything. The dark romance genre really capitalizes on this hardcore, and yeah, I'm never going to be in support of that. Pop culture references, like mentioning TikTok or celebrity. Oh, this one's so good. There was a lot of comments on this thread. I actually got this quite a lot. Like any references to Gen Z, if it's too Gen Z or it's too millennial, like anything that's like too associated with the times. I've actually never had this happen to me personally where it annoyed me enough to just like put down the book and never want to read it again. That's never happened. I think this is because it takes you out of the story. I think it kind of like puts you too much in reality, and there is obviously an escapism to reading that people get annoyed if it feels too like real and raw into now. So bringing you back to current times, something about it is just like off-putting, especially ones that are more escapist readers, which is a lot of readers, I can probably look past it. It may not make me DNF a book, but do I understand why that's annoying? Yeah. The pick me girl MC, as soon as she says, I'm not like other girls because I'm loud, I curse, and I make dirty jokes, I'm out. What I think is more common in books is that I'm not like other girls because I'm like a victim, or I'm not like other girls because like I'm like the hero and I'm like the strong female that isn't really the strong female. I feel like that gets very rom-com-y because like rom-coms are notorious for this in general, like the movies. But in rom-com books, that happens a lot, and it's just like, why is it that a woman can't curse and still be like a feminine woman? Like it's almost like an emasculization of women to like, okay, that's not cute. It's like very Amy Schumer And we all know that she's kind of annoying. So, but yeah, I agree with this. This is just kind of like, okay, I don't really care about this. If the FMC gets pregnant, I'm throwing the book away. So this was maybe the number one commented thing. Any pregnancy tropes, especially accidental pregnancy, which I think is something we kind of have to decipher when we're having this conversation. A pregnancy trope in general, and then there's the accidental pregnancy trope. Now, we'll say most people said that the accidental part is what they found the most annoying. Some people were just like broadly pregnancy is just not for them, which, you know, I think that's valid. Like, you know, not everyone wants to hear or read about pregnancy. Some people it's just the accidental, or if like it's in the epilogue and all of a sudden they're talking about them having babies, or if that was not something you thought was going to happen and then it just kind of shows up. And I will say in the monster romance world, pregnancy tropes are kind of a thing because they kind of align with the breeding schmink a little bit. Yeah, I have to say this one definitely is not me. I think I lean more of a person that, you know, likes the breeding smink more than the pregnancy itself, but like I love Ice Planet Barbarians, as you can see above me, and like all other characters get pregnant. So yeah, I don't know if that's really gonna, yeah, I can't really align myself with this comment very much. It's not something that bothers me. If anything, I don't know, like kind of like it. It's not something that's a deal breaker for me at all. If anything, especially if it aligns with the breeding smink, I'm kind of like, yeah. A playlist in the book, I know it's going to be bad, or if they mention anything pop culture related. This sort of references back to the Gen Z comment. I feel like it's similar. The playlist thing is like what really made me want to talk about this. Playlist thing is such a common thing with like your TikTok promoted books. And I just can't, some of the stuff that is on these playlists, I'm like, I just can't imagine listening to that and trying to focus on what I'm reading. It's like if people are really listening into those playlists, are they really absorbing what they're reading? I'll listen to like instrumental music or play the TV lightly in the background or something while I'm reading. But like playing some of these detailed songs with like lots of lyrics and stuff while trying to like absorb a book, I will never understand that, period. But two, I don't know where the popularity of this kind of started. I guess it was sort of from the girlification of reading. Well, they're like, oh, play a cute little song and read your book or whatever, you know, a TikTok trend. I don't know. But like, I don't even engage in these playlists. So lots of times, like if I see them, I just skip them because I'm like, I'm not going to do this. How do you even absorb, you know, any of this stuff? Some people in the comments were even saying like, oh, if it has a playlist, I instantly know it's bad, so I don't even read it. I maybe don't go that far. It probably is a good indication it's very much a Gen Z book. Like you're not going to find a Jane Austen book with a playlist at the beginning. It's just, you know what I mean? That going to make me just put it down? Probably not. This one was wildly specific and made me laugh. I just DNF'd an audiobook because the MMC had a Boston accent and they were trying to play it off as so attractive. Oh my. Let's talk about audiobooks. So there's like actually kind of a lot of conversation in the bookish community about audiobooks, and I love, if you're ever just bored on a day, just go through different audiobooks and look at their commentary, like their reviews. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. So much divisiveness as to like what audiobook narrator sounds good, which was like, oh, don't look up your audiobook narrators because you'll be horrified. But trying to insinuate they're ugly. Like they're ugly, and because you're hearing them whisper these sometimes dirty scenes to you, it can like really take you out to know that's the person that's whispering it to you. But yeah, audiobook world is hilarious, people's opinions about them. I will say I do have moments where certain people's voices were not exactly how I imagined them, especially if I'm rereading. Like if I read the book first, then I get the audiobook and I decide, oh, I'm going to reread this again with audiobooks. That's whenever it happens to me the worst, where I'm like, wait, this is not how I envisioned this person. Okay. And that is not like a sexy voice to me, especially if it's like a smut book. I'm like, oh, that's not hitting me the way I want it to, you know? A very imaginative person like me. And I like dream stuff in my head. I'm like such a dreamer when it comes to books, and I'll like make stuff up, images in my mind. Like that's just how I do. Voice doesn't match with what I originally thought. That's whenever it's disappointing. But if I just start with an audiobook and if I don't read it first, then that sort of sets the stage for the character to begin with. So that's what I try to do, is if I'm going to read it with an audiobook, I just do it from the beginning. But the Boston accent thing is hilarious. I've actually never heard a Boston accent very much in audiobooks, but Southern accents, That always just gets me. That's part of what made me love Ice Planet Barbarians, is because Georgie has like a really thick southern accent, and that made me die in the audiobook. It was so good. The audiobook narrator for Georgie, iconic. So amazing. Good southern accent. So when they get the accent right and it adds to the story, it's really cool. Like, I love it. But sometimes certain accents, especially if maybe you have an aversion to it, I can see where it might make you like uncomfortable. But alternatively, someone like me who appreciates a good southern accent, you know, I loved it. Okay, so I think this is sort of one of those things that it just depends. Where a wrong accent, or if it's something personally you don't really like to hear, it can be off-putting, but also it can be super iconic. Memory loss in the middle of the end. Something to start with it. But it always ends up annoying me as a plot device in the middle of a story, and it's even worse if it's at the end. So this is one of those things I've actually come across a little bit, amnesia as like a plot device. So I can kind of understand how this sort of seems somewhat like a little lousy storytelling, you know? You can just make them forget everything and then have to relearn their lives. Like, it just feels a little cheesy. I guess I'm not totally willing to just write off amnesia stories entirely, but do I think they're a little lazy? Yeah. One of the books that has the amnesia trope in Ice Planet Barbarians, and like, it was cute, but definitely not my favorite, you know, because again, I just don't find that to be very compelling. But will it make me DNF it like immediately? Probably not. Kind of depends. Like, sort of cheesy and hallmarky. Kind of. You know, I get that. Ooh, this one's a good one. Spicy scenes between minors. Closed door doesn't bother me, but I don't need to read about minors. It makes me feel icky. Okay, so there's been lots of controversy about this on TikTok because of a certain series, The Boys of Tommen. The fans of that series, especially with there being a lot of minor related things that happen in the books. So I think there's different schools of thought, you know, in this idea that I don't think that just because it's like YA, it doesn't necessarily have to have no, you know, physical interaction. Now, super smutty, no. I think there's a delicate line to be drawn, because obviously teens have sex. Like, that's not new for us. We all know that. It's not something I think we should just like write off. That's just kind of human nature, and teens do those things. Teens do have sex, you know, and walking around pretending that just doesn't exist, I don't think is very helpful. I think we need to have more control over the narrative about how we talk about sex in like teenage, you know, media. There needs to be a line to it. You know, I feel like it needs to err on the side of wholesome versus erring on the side of super smutty, in my opinion. Really want to read about minors having sex? No. I definitely don't think it's content for me or anything I would find particularly appealing. I don't know if I'd support just getting rid of it altogether, but is it for me? No, I don't care to read about that. I'll just read adult smut. Well, those were really good. I really liked all of those. I thought all of those were really interesting things that make people want to DNF books. A lot of really interesting things to say, and a lot of them I agreed with, or, you know, I could somewhat see. You know, try to follow me on TikTok. I do stuff like that all the time. Lots of good conversation happening in my comment sections, okay? It's at mrslongreadss with 2 S's. And please like and subscribe to this video, and I will see you later. Bye.